Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, here's Anne Bond.
Thanks very much. As you've been hearing in the news, in central town, Waterloo, Blackfriars, Westminster and Lambeth bridges are closed because of this demonstration that's causing significant delays on the approach routes. Cockspur Street is also closed. That's for a march making its way towards Whitehall via Pall Mall and Trafalgar Square. In Waterloo Road, traffic's slow through the temporary traffic lights through the roadworks around the Old Vic, and in Greenwich South Street has been closed in both directions. That's between the George and Dragon traffic lights, and Greenwich High Road, that's all down to a burst water main. In Shoreditch, it's very slow on City Road heading towards the roadworks at Bath Street, and on the trains again, as we've been hearing in the news. South Western Railways are running a severely reduced service across the network because of this industrial action, and as a result may cause delays to fans travelling to the England-Japan match at Twickenham. That's kicking off at 3 o'clock. London Overground has severe delays between Liverpool Street and Enfield. C2C has no service between Liverpool Street and Barking, and there's no service on the DLR between Stratford International and Canning Town. This is all down to weekend engineering works. Anne Bond, BBC Radio London Travel. The next update's in half an hour.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, here's Pippa Sparks.
Thanks, Katie. England taking on Croatia, as you heard on the news, at Wembley Stadium. The gates are open now. The kick-off's at 2, but it's taking a while to get in because it's absolutely solid on all approaches now. For the Harrow Road, that's busy queuing from the North Circular northbound and eastbound coming in from Sudbury. 40 Lane is dense in both directions. There are queues on Empire Way and Wembley Hill Road as well. The Fulham 10K must be coming into its final stages, I think. They're pounding their way back to Eelbrook Common. But the closures continue on Fulham Road, Dawes Road and the Munster Road till around 2 o'clock, and also closures on the New Kings Road. That's queuing back towards New World's End on the approach to the closure at the moment at the Parsons Green end. Wandsworth Bridge Road still heavy northbound from Wandsworth Bridge, but the earlier delays on Fulham Palace Road and Putney Bridge both seem to be easing off now. Roadworks and temporary lights on the North Circular at Ealing Common causing long delays today. Very slow along Gunnersbury Avenue with southbound queues back to North Ealing Station. Northbound it's heavy from Gunnersbury Park, and the Southall procession underway now, starting from the Havelock Road, Gurdwara, and processing along the Green to Park Avenue. All those roads are very busy with knock-on delays on South Road and Southall Broadway. Pippa Sparks, BBC Radio London. Your next travel at 12:30.
Thank you, Pippa.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, here's Bill Sheldrake.
Good afternoon. We've got a collision on the A13 heading into town. It's just by the junction of Gascoigne Road for East Ham. That's being blocked, so looking quite slow on the approach. There was a crash earlier as well from the Redbridge roundabout towards the M11. That's still looking quite slow. I think the crash has actually been sorted, but it's left you with residual delays. Perivale looking quite slow as well. The A40 on your approach to the Medway underpass, and Walthamstow still looking quite slow in both directions along Hoe Street between Walthamstow Central Station and to the junction with Lee Bridge Road due to the Milad procession, and also another procession for Southall as well. That's looking quite slow into town, particularly along the Green and then onto South Road past Southall Railway Station. So it's all over then. They think it's all over. The traffic isn't over though. After the England match, it's looking pretty busy obviously for the surrounding routes heading out from Wembley Stadium, and delays still of up to 15 minutes on the trains. This is Southern through Norwood Junction because of electrical supply problems. All lines on the tube though running a good service. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update just before 5 o'clock.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, Bill Sheldrake.
Good morning. We now have a couple of collisions on the M25, I'm afraid. Here comes the clockwise stretch near junction 27 for the M11 interchange. It's the outside lane along that 4-lane stretch which is now closed off. It's a car and a van. Watch out for them if that's part of your journey. It's about a mile before junction 28 for the Brook Street roundabout. And they're also holding the traffic, the highways officers, the clockwise stretch at junction 16 for the M40 towards junction 17 for Maple Cross. It's about a mile after junction 16 near the railway viaduct. A13 not looking too bright either. It's looking much slower than usual, I'm afraid, into town from Marsh Way towards the Goresbrook interchange after an early collision. That's going to take you 20 minutes at the moment, according to my speed sensors. And we're just getting reports coming in of a collision on the A12 London bound in Essex near junction 23 for Kelvedon South. It's looking slow on the sensors now towards junction 25 for Marks Tay. Still looking at the northern roundabout on the cameras because they've got a lovely shot. It's looking quite misty actually, but the A40 over the roundabout looking quite busy at the moment. Good service on all the tube lines right now. On the trains, looking fine for them as well. All the various railway operators reporting a good service. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update in 15 minutes.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, Bill Sheldrake.
Good morning, south of town. Here comes Lee. It's a crash on the A20 Elton Road at the junction of Weagle Road, and traffic is taking turns to pass that collision. Checking the speed sensors, it's looking slow now all the way from the Lewisham Medical Centre on the A20 Lee High Road. Still looking quite slow. I've got this on my big screen in front of me. Shepherd's Bush Green, actually very slow as if you're heading towards White City. Also watch out for delays as well. It's day 3, the final day of the protesters' demonstration on all those major intersections in central London. So the protesters are currently blocking Victoria Street on the westbound carriageway just before Bressenden Place. And here comes Roehampton Lane. We're seeing those queues bubble up now, both directions between Kingston Lane, Roehampton, and the Upper Richmond Road, Red Rover for Barnes. That's because of those works, of course. For the public transport situation, good service on all the tube lines right now, and no reported problems for the trains either, all looking good with all the various railway operators. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update in 15 minutes.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, here's Lewis Gillingham.
Thanks, Olivia. Parliament Square currently blocked due to a protest. It's the ongoing climate change protest. So there's several protesters on Whitehall and others on the south side of Parliament Square as well. So as it stands, no traffic can enter or exit Parliament Square. In Shoreditch, we still have the A10 Kingsland Road partially blocked off just north of Old Street under the railway bridge. Southbound is basically closed, with all traffic taking in turns to pass on the northbound carriageway after that incident in the early hours of this morning. High Road Leighton is closed in both directions due to an unsafe building, and there's delays in Roehampton Lane at Frobel College where temporary traffic lights are in place. In King's Cross, you'll find delays in the one-way system. King's Cross Road is closed for emergency waterworks from Pentonville Road to Penton Rise. Also, Euston Road is down to one lane westbound at Judge Street, and that's causing delays. Lewis Gillingham, BBC Radio London. Next travel update is just before 11.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, here's Fiona McKinnon.
Thanks very much, BBC Radio London Travel. Here's the latest, and taking a look at the roads, it's looking slow for the M1 northbound from junction 6A, the M25 turn up to junction 7 at St Albans. That's after an accident which happened earlier on. All lanes have reopened, but it's still rather slow. And the M4 westbound is restricted between junction 8, 9 and 10 because of a breakdown. The eastbound stretch is also very slow and restricted from junction 10 to 8, 9 after a separate breakdown. Now looking at my camera, and the A12 southbound remains restricted. It's down to one lane at the Brunswick Road just before the Blackwall Tunnel. Broken down cars in the outside lane, but recovery are at the scene. Do expect delays on the A12 southbound approaching the Blackwall Tunnel. The A13 through Barking remains slow eastbound approaching Movers Lane because of temporary lights after water main burst. And the A11 Aldgate High Street is slow each way between Jury Street and Whitechapel Tube. Further in to Euston, I can see on my other camera that we've got this breakdown on the Euston Road on the A501. It's on the westbound section just before Euston Station by the Churchway. It's still in the outside lane by the traffic lights, so do expect delays. It is rather slow on the westbound approach to that. And a reminder that the Strand underpass is closed northbound at the Aldwych for emergency repairs, so do expect Waterloo Bridge to be busier and the surrounding area. You can update us on 0800 731 2000 or drop us a tweet at BBC Traveller. Now with public transport, and there's no TfL rail service between Liverpool Street and Romford, and London Overground services are part suspended. Fiona McKinnon, BBC Radio London. Next update is just before 4.
BBC Radio London travel recovery work, M25 junction 25 anti-clockwise, dreadful queues through the Holmesdale Tunnel. Junction 26 to 25 is pretty much stationary whilst an overturned car is recovered, and that means it's slow on the clockwise past the scene 24 to 25, so anti-clockwise 26 to 25, absolutely dreadful presently. A40 looking slow heading out of town towards Greenford and the scene of a broken down vehicle. A501 Pentonville Road eastbound shut for gas main work from Barron Street to Angel, causing some dreadful queues through the Euston Underpass and past King's Cross on the eastbound. Billy Reeves, BBC Radio London Travel, and more from me just before 7.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, here's Billy Reeves.
M25 is slow anti-clockwise around junction 6 after an earlier accident, one lane out, and there's a lane out on the exit slip at 23, so just a bit tricky getting off anti-clockwise onto the A1M. Lambeth North, Westminster Bridge Road, all very busy around there. This is because of ongoing roadworks, which mean that private vehicles can't use Bridge Street in Westminster or Westminster Bridge northbound until the 14th of December. That's for security installation work. A406 at the Redbridge roundabout, lane blocked on the exit slip there. That's where the A406 meets the A12. Roadworks also affecting the A501 again this evening, Pentonville Road end. This is eastbound closed for gas main work from Barron Street to Angel, which caused eastbound queues back to Great Portland Street under the Euston Underpass, past the British Library, past King's Cross Station. Public transport not too bad. Reduced TfL services again today because of a signalling problem between Heathrow Terminal 123 and Terminal 4. Minor delays on the London Overground, Euston to Watford Junction because of a shortage of trains. Billy Reeves, BBC Radio London. More from me in 15 minutes.
BBC Radio Solent.
Travel.
Busy on the phones. If you've got a ringing tone, stay with it. We'll get to you as soon as we can. Right, 5:15, always busy on a Friday. Let's see how it's looking now. Here's Oliver Head. Hi, Ollie.
Hi there, Lou. The Bedminster to Netherbury Road, the A3066 is blocked due to a large tree that's come down. The A338 Bournemouth Spur really slow trying to get towards town because of those roadworks at the Blackwater Junction. The M271 at Southampton at Junction 1 for Nursling on the inbound side or somewhere nearby there's a collision. You can still get through, not far from Junction 1, but very slow. And those delays continue all the way to Redbridge because nearby on the A35 Tottenham bypass heading away from Southampton, there's a lane closure before Rushington as they're doing emergency repairs. That's also causing queues on Redbridge Causeway as well. Cobden Bridge in Southampton, a car's broken down through the roadworks. You can just about get through, but there's about a 20 to 25 minute delay. Portsmouth, it's roadworks queues on Baffins Road. The A27 Porchester Road, mainly coming from Porchester towards Fareham, is very slow going. The M3's got slow again southbound near Winchester between junctions 9 and 11. Near to Andover at Red Post Bridge on Red Post Lane and Monkston Road, the traffic lights are not working. White Link, there are cancellations and alterations on the Lymington to Yarmouth route because of the weather. The 5 o'clock and the 8:05 from Lymington are not running, and from Yarmouth it's the 6:05 and the 9:10 that are cancelled. Trains are being delayed or cancelled between Portsmouth and Southsea, and haven't. It's due to a faulty train at Fratton. Update us if your hands free. More in quarter of an hour.
Call the BBC Radio Solent travel hotline.
0808 100 3900.
Oh my goodness, popular Who's in the News.
And the latest travel news on BBC Radio London. There's delays in East London. West Ham are playing at home with a 3 o'clock kickoff, so it's looking particularly slow approaching the Redbridge roundabout because there were delays on the M11 southbound, or still are delays on the M11 southbound from Junction 5 down to the end of the motorway and then queuing on to the A12. That's affecting the Redbridge roundabout, which means there's queues on the A12 in all directions and on the A406 in all directions, approaching both Redbridge roundabout. Gants Hill is backing up, almost backing up as far as Newbury Park, and eastbound queuing up back past Wanstead as well. Also very slow around the Olympic Park, particularly Stratford High Street eastbound towards the Stratford Gyratia, looking slow. Lea Bridge Road is also very slow as well due to roadworks in the area not helping matters there. Looking very slow also northbound into the Blackwall Tunnel. That's queuing pretty much from the A2. There was a mattress on the road earlier, so they blocked off a lane there, but those queues really have not gone away at all. Also, usual delays coming into town on the M4 as well from Junction 3 towards the end of the motorway. Public transport all looking good so far this afternoon, but our engineering works, which means that London Overground has no service from Hackney Downs to Enfield Town or Cheshunt. Lewis Gillingham, BBC Radio London. Next travel update is at 2:30.
On digital radio, 94.9 FM and on BBC Sounds.
This is London.
This is BBC Radio London.
London's news at 2 o'clock. BBC Radio London travel now. Here's Billy Reeves.
Thanks very much indeed. The Western Avenue eastbound near Concord Road. One of the lanes is out because of a broken down vehicle. Approach with caution. The Medway underpass westbound, broken down vehicle through that stretch. So the Western Avenue between Long Lane and the West End roundabout slow presently. The A501 at Marylebone Road, my understanding was that the works were going to be out by now near Baker Street on the eastbound. They're still there. And also the A501 Pentonville Road eastbound is still closed from Barron Street to Angel Islington. It's gas main work and water main work holding things up on the A501 Pentonville Road eastbound between, so it gets really slow around King's Cross up towards Islington. Hampton Court Road is blocked because of a crash near the Princess Diana Fountain. Between there and Kingston Bridge is very slow after a collision. M4 eastbound slow at junction 8-9. There's a lane closed on the exit slip. Blackwall Tunnel northbound is now open, but some residual delays remain back to Sun in the Sands. There was a closure there because it took a long time to get the car that was on fire out. Westbury Road southbound remains closed because of an overturned crane from Westbury Circus to Marsh Wall. Billy Reeves, BBC Radio London. More from me just before 5.
On digital radio,
94.9 FM
and on BBC Sounds.
This is London.
This is BBC Radio London.
Billy Reeves has your BBC Radio London travel.
M25 junction with the M1 is slow because there's only one lane open just north of Hemel. So just a little bit of a struggle getting off the M25 because we've got congestion on the M1 northbound pretty much back to 6A. So 6A to 9 slow heading out on the M1 presently. Croydon flyover both ways. Emergency repairs may hold you up. The M25 now starting to look slow around Cobham Services. I think there is a lane out. It looks as though there's emergency repairs going on. Just suddenly slowed up again about 20 minutes ago. So emergency repairs, M25 anti-clockwise from 10 to Cobham Services down the bottom in Surrey. No London Overground presently. Seven Sisters to Cheshunt or Enfield Town. This is because of a derailment of an engineering train at Edmonton Green. A reminder that the A201 King's Cross Road northbound is shut for water main work. Frederick Street to Great Percy Street. Winter Wonderland at Hyde Park, of course, makes it a little bit especially busy around Hyde Park Corner. Football at Arsenal and Chelsea tonight, both in League Cup action. Billy Reeves, BBC Radio London. And more from me just before 2.
BBC Radio London travel. Here's Billy Reeves.
Tanya, the Croydon flyover has now reopened. Works complete. The A127 Southend Arterial at the junction of Squirrels Heath is closed eastbound because of a crash. Very slow both ways with congestion on the eastbound back to Gallows Corner. A406 eastbound slow at Waterworks. That was because of a crash and recovery work. A312 the Parkway southbound near Aussie Garvin roundabout. Slow there because of a broken down lorry. M1 northbound's now clear of the accident 8 to 9, but residual delays remain from the M25 heading northbound into Hertfordshire this evening. M25 clockwise slow 24 to 25 eastbound up top. One lane is out because of a crash involving a lorry. No London Overground, Seven Sisters to Cheshunt or Enfield Town. This is because of a derailed engineering train earlier on at Edmonton Green. A reminder, football tonight may hold you up. Both Arsenal and Chelsea have home matches in the League Cup. Billy Reeves, BBC Radio London. And more from me just before 3.
On digital radio,
94.9 FM.
And on BBC Sounds.
This is London.
This is BBC Radio London.
BBC Radio London Travel, and well, that's what I'm leading with. Obviously, all flights currently suspended at Gatwick Airport. Dozens of flights are being diverted to other airports across the UK, and I don't anticipate any change in the situation, certainly for the morning or even possibly the rest of the day. But anyway, we'll keep abreast of the situation here, of course, on BBC Radio London. The trains, the overground, just minor delays between Euston and Watford Junction because of an obstruction on the line earlier at Kenton. The tubes are doing fine. Let's head to the M25. We've got our first broken down lorry, I think, reported anyway for the day. This is closed off 2 lanes. It's anti-clockwise. It's near junction 1A for Swanscombe. So crossing over towards Essex, that congestion already if you're coming in from the Kent direction from junction 2, the Dartmouth interchange. So it's the right-hand tunnel which is closed. The left-hand tunnel, which is the smaller one, remains open. And then further up, we've got another broken down vehicle near junction 26, Waltham Abbey. If you're heading towards junction 25, that travel time is around 30 minutes. That means that lane 1 is closed just before the Holmesdale tunnel to deal with that vehicle. Here comes Fulham making the travel news. Munster Road, it's the A3219 closed southbound. It's been closed off by the police. They're dealing with an investigation that's closed from Lily Road to Chiltern Road. Bus route 424 on diversion if you normally catch that. And Kingston Vale, better news, A3 Robin Hood interchange, everything now open. It looks like they finished that water mains work. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update just after 7:30.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, Bill Sheldrake.
Good morning, and obviously not a good morning if you have a flight booked at Gatwick Airport. As we've been hearing, all flights remain suspended. Arrivals still being diverted to other airports. The latest we're hearing is they're hoping to have the airport reopened by 10 o'clock. So it looks like it's going to stay closed for at least another 1.5 hours. Now, we've got some queues as well for the M25 if you're heading in from the Kent direction from junction 2 now, the Dartmouth interchange. It's all down to one lorry which broke down earlier on, which had closed off the higher of the Dartford tunnels. And long delays as well for Poplar. Aspen Way, the westbound stretch of the junction of Paul Julius Close, is still closed off that carriageway after a collision. It's looking very slow on the cameras actually. Westbound delays right back now to the A13 Woolwich Manor Way. And Wimbledon Parkside blocked off by a collision at the junction with Queensmere Road. Short delays on the approach I'm seeing on the speed sensors. And also we've got a broken down car in Walworth. This is the Bricklayers Arms flyover, blocked partially by that car on the eastbound stretch just by the junction with the Bricklayers Arms. It's been a good morning so far for the tubes. Overground, still just some minor delays between Euston and Watford Junction because of an obstruction on the line earlier. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update in 15 minutes.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, Bill Sheldrake.
Good morning. Let's update you then on Gatwick Airport, and of course all flights to and from the airport remain suspended until further notice. We can't really give you a reopening time. That's not really feasible at the moment. It's all due to the ongoing drone activity. So incoming flights are being diverted to other airports across the UK. 10,000 people have had their flights disrupted. We have reports that a drone was still on the airfield actually earlier this morning. Now the runway has been closed off since 9 o'clock last night, apart from a brief reopening for 45 minutes overnight. Now Gatwick Airport are saying please do not travel to the airport without checking the status of your flight with your airline first. Of course, they apologise to everyone affected, but the safety of all the passengers and staff is their number one priority. Updates to come on that throughout the day here on BBC Radio London. In other travel news, we still have congestion from the Ilford flyover heading towards Redbridge roundabout. The culprit was a lorry which broke down, and also still looking slow on the M25. This is heading anti-clockwise between junction 17 Maple Cross to junction 16, the M40 turn. That was with a collision which involves a lorry and a car. Wimbledon Parkside saw closer for a section as well after an early collision. That's from Queensmere Road to Inner Park Road. But thankfully, at the moment, no reported disruption for the tubes or indeed the trains. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update in 15 minutes.
Now with the BBC Radio London Travel, Bill Sheldrake.
Good morning. Let's start with the flights again because Gatwick's runway has reopened and the airport says that a limited number of aircraft are scheduled for departure and arrival over the coming hours. But of course, they're having to work their way through that massive backlog, so expect a lot of disruption. If you have got a flight booked for today or if you had it booked yesterday, the thing to do is definitely check your flight status with your airline operator. That's the advice from Gatwick Airport before even setting out to the airport itself, because although you might be thinking, oh, this is great news that the runway's reopened, there is still a heck of a lot of disruption, so please bear that in mind. But 700 flights hopefully will take off today, but that is 100 fewer than usual. Southeastern are saying if you had a ticket booked with them data for either the 19th or the 20th, you can still use that today, though, to get to the airport. I would imagine that's going to be the same arrangement with the other railway operators, so do check on that. Let's stick with public transport, actually, because South Western Railway services will be affected by strike action tomorrow. If you're using their services, there will be a reduced service on most of the network, I'm afraid. That's because of the RMT union holding their 24-hour strike. If you are using the trains this Christmas, by the way, we have a brilliant handy guide for you. This is an unashamed advert for you on BBC Travel Alert, and it's so easy to just, if you're on Twitter, just log into BBC Travel Alert, and it's all there for you for the next week, which service is running and which services won't be running. And also, the Overground, there'll be no service for the entire weekend. This weekend, between Hackney Downs and Enfield Town and Cheshunt, they will be, though, providing buses to cover that line. The Tubes, it's been an excellent morning so far. Looking pretty good for this coming weekend. No engineering works really affecting the Tubes for you. But like I say, South Western Railway's trains will be affected by that strike action. Bill Sheldrake, BBC Radio London Travel. Next update, just before 11 o'clock.
Now with BBC Radio London Travel, here's Pippa Sparks.
Thanks, Mike. Severely reduced service for South Western Railway today due to strike action. Southern trains, the Gatwick Express, not running between Victoria and Clapham Junction due to the track works at Battersea Park. Most services diverting to London Bridge. And reduced and revised services for London North Western and Virgin trains via Euston. A reduced GWR service via Paddington with trains not calling at Greenford. Half-hourly Heathrow Express. A reduced Greater Anglia service via Liverpool Street. TfL not running between Liverpool Street and Shenfield till midday. Then there'll be no service between Liverpool Street and Romford. The overground services between Liverpool Street, Chingford and Enfield Town are running every 20 minutes, but not stopping at Bethnal Green, Hackney Downs, Cambridge Heath, London Fields or Clapton, with a reduced service between Gospel Oak and Barking. Trams are running. They're running a Saturday service. The highway is down to one lane westbound as you head through Wapping at Bet Street for gasworks, so that's looking a little bit slow towards Swedenborg Gardens. The A1 Upper Street in Islington closed southbound at Highbury Corner for emergency repairs. There may be some pressure later on Canonbury Road to and from the Angel as traffic diverts. It's fine at the moment. And in Romford, traffic light failure continues on the A12 Eastern Avenue at the junction with Morley Road. So there's no right turn for traffic in both directions, but it looks pretty good as far as I can see. No major hold-ups or queues. Pippa Sparks, BBC Radio London. Your next travel at 9:15.